To understand these gods, we must inhabit their environment. The world of early Germanic tribes and Scandinavian Vikings was freezing, mud-soaked, and relentlessly violent. These people lived at the mercy of a brutal geography. They relied on quiet, vital agriculture to survive the winters, yet their history is defined by terrifying, bloody raiding across the seas. We view these gods as a sociological mirror. As scholar Kevin Crossley Holland observes, a culture finds the gods it needs. To know the Vikings, we must look at the specific traits they projected onto the divine. Our primary access to these myths comes from the Prose Edda, written around 1220 CE by Snorri Sturluson. This manuscript captured the oral traditions of a society already moving away from its pagan roots. The Norse pantheon functioned as a survival mechanism. It provided a divine framework that allowed a society of farmers to reconcile their need for stable crops with their reality as professional killers. The economic baseline of the early Norse was rooted in the soil. Before they were famous raiders, they were farmers desperate for fertile land. This necessity produced the Vanir, an older set of gods associated with earth and sun. Led by Freyr and Freya, they represented the foundational requirements for biological and agricultural survival. Eventually, a newer faction rose to prominence, the Aesir. These sky-dwelling gods brought a dominant, warlike ideology that would define the Viking Age. The mythic war between the Vanir and Aesir reflects the merging of two competing religions, a process called euhemerism. Once absorbed, the new hierarchy placed war gods at the peak, keeping farming gods as a respected foundation. This unified religious structure justified the society's dual nature. It gave them a way to prioritize aggressive conquest while still honoring the agricultural roots that kept them fed. To thrive as a culture of raiders, the Norse needed to justify their most famous export, extreme physical violence. Odin fulfilled this role as the god of the berserkers. He was a magic user and seeker of arcane wisdom who embodied the ecstatic, chaotic rage required for shock troop warfare. While Odin represented magical fury, Thor provided a practical model for violence. He was the giant clobbering protector justifying blunt force used to defend territory. Viking raiding followed strict legal codes, embodied by Tyr. As god of war and justice, he structured a society as litigious as it was violent. Together, Odin, Thor, and Tyr served as divine permission slips. They allowed the Norse to engage in brutal expansion abroad while maintaining a rigid legal order at home. This focus on the warrior class also dictated the roles available to the other half of the population, the Norse goddesses. Freya is the prominent exception. As a goddess of love and Garo, she possesses significant agency, a magical feather jacket, and a feline-drawn chariot. However, the remaining goddesses occupy strictly domestic spheres. Frigg is defined by maternal mourning, Var punishes betrayed marriage oaths, and Sin guards the household doorway. These domestic roles, contrasted against the mobility of the male gods, reveal a pantheon structured to reflect the patriarchal hierarchy of the warrior class. The myth of Thor's stolen hammer serves as the ultimate synthesis of these values: violence, fertility, and the preservation of order through force. The giant Thrym steals the hammer, Mjolnir, and demands the hand of the agency-rich Freya in exchange for its return. When Freya refuses, the gods must find another way. In a comedic pivot, the hyper-masculine Thor is forced into a wedding dress and veil. At the wedding feast, he nearly blows his cover by devouring an entire ox, 8 salmon, and 3 horns of mead. The climax occurs when the hammer, a symbol of fertility, is placed in the bride's lap. Thor immediately drops the disguise and brutally crushes the skulls of every giant in the hall. These stories lacked the high-minded moral metaphors of Greek or Egyptian myth. They were entertainment for warriors who appreciated blood, ale, and the practical application of power. The Norse didn't invent perfect deities. They engineered gods who drank, fought, farmed, and skied, creating a pantheon that mirrored the grit required to survive at the edge of the world.